Guys, I imagine you're like me, constantly tethered to your phone or computer. A few years ago, I got fed up with charging cables that absolutely suck, and then I discovered Paracable. I was a customer before they sponsored the show. With Paracable's ultra-durable charging cords, a full battery will come at you faster than a front kick to the face. These cables will charge your iPhone 8 or higher at 50% in just 30 minutes. Paracable makes the highest quality cables available for all of your favorite devices and come with a 2-year full replacement warranty. If you ever have an issue, they will replace it with a brand new cable. Bad Guy Inc. Studios uses their USB-C and Lightning cables, and here's how you can get your own for 10% off. Head over to paracable.com or click on the link in the description below. Choose your device from the drop-down menu and select the style of cable you want. Enter code Chael at checkout to get 10% off. Don't let your battery tap out. Stay charged up with Paracable and grab yours today. So Adesanya had a very cool statement. He said if he wins the belt on Saturday, meaning he beats Blachowicz, he is not going to keep the 185-pounders hanging. So I assumed the next line that I was going to read was going to say that he was going to vacate 185 and just take care of business at 205. No. He said the opposite. He said, I will return to 185 immediately to keep things moving. Okay, that's great news, but you're keeping someone holding up. And I'm not blaming Adesanya. This is just the nature of the beast, and this is largely why Dana never liked the champ thing in the first place. If you go back to 85 to keep that rolling, you're now holding up 205 pounds, right? I mean, I'm stating the obvious for you, but it did surprise me that Adesanya said he was going to go back down to 85. Look, we were all under the impression that this whole move to 205 pounds, as it pertained to Israel Adesanya, was a way to get Adesanya and Jon Jones together. Somewhere along the way, Jones, I don't know what Jones has done. People keep saying he's moved to heavyweight. I believe until you weigh in and fight at heavyweight, you've only quit. So Jon quits to the point that he leaves his belt, or that his quitting and leaving of the belt adds to the sincerity and the obviousness that he's going up to heavyweight, which is yet to be shown. Either way, Adesanya is now talking about going back down to 185, which would negate any ideas that we had of him defeating Blachowicz and luring Jon out. So I'm back with what am I missing? What is happening here and how did I miss it? I don't miss anything. And I don't generally miss anything because I can either find out with one phone call, or I've been doing this long enough that it's obvious and I see what other people don't see anyway. Not this time. I'm missing something. I am missing something. Why are we here? And what are we doing? Blachowicz and Adesanya don't have any heat. They don't have any history. Every champ match that we've ever seen in the history of champs, which there's only a few, you could count them all on one hand, but there is a tremendous backstory, which is what leads you to the second champ of the champ. There's nothing on this. There is no backstory or alleged backstory. They didn't even have the decency to manufacture a backstory. Which left us all concluding, okay, it has to do with Jon Jones. And however this plays out, but Adesanya's going to have a platform, and certainly he's the smartest guy in the room at all times. He's a chess player. He's a few steps ahead. He's going to be going after Jon Jones. But if we're to take him at his word, of which, of course, he has the right to change, but if we take him at his word as of right now, he's going to be going back to 185, the opposite direction of his nemesis, Jon Jones. So is he giving us a swerve? Possibly. That would be within the entertainer's rights. It just doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way at all. Now, before we even get to this point, Adesanya's got to get through the baddest guy in the world known as the world champion. And it is a little bit disrespectful the way myself and everybody else continue to talk as though that's a foregone conclusion. It is not a foregone conclusion. Either way, we're not wrong to speculate. We do that to everybody. We do that in every weight class and every fight on the card. Well, what should happen if they win and what should happen if they lose? It's okay that we're talking this way. I just thought I would bring out in full disclosure that we are kind of talking that way. We are looking right past this. But before we get there, if Adesanya is already planning to point his cannon back down to 185, that would be the opposite of what we thought he was going to do by going after Jon Jones, who, by the way, does not have an opponent yet. I mean, Jon Jones at heavyweight, as mythical as you want this to be, is still opponentless at heavyweight. Jon Jones has made it very clear. This is a cash grab for me. I've been champion. It's not about championships. This is about a cash grab. I want to go where I can make the most money, which is a certainly would be a byproduct of fighting Israel Adesanya. So I've kept hope alive. Maybe I'm all by myself. Maybe I got to elect myself mayor to get the Hintville, right? Don't just sit there and look at me, though, guys, like I should figure this out. You're the one still wondering if Khabib is retired, even though he did it 14 weeks ago and hasn't said anything to the contrary since. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in this sport that we just refuse to accept. Maybe because we don't want to accept it. But if Adesanya does go back down to 185, cool. That's a cool move. I like that he's saying he's not going to hold it up. And Adesanya is smart enough and respectful enough. He will line up his next job before he finishes this one. And I say that's respectful because Adesanya is going to hand the golden goose to somebody. He will have a name. He will make it very clear, and we will all be interested in it. That's just how good Adesanya is at doing this. I just assumed it would be Jon Jones. And somebody is going to get held up unless he returns to middleweight and walks away from the light heavyweight and vacates that one. I mean, you see where it gets weird? At some point, you don't just need to wait around and let a guy vacate. Just take the belt off him. It's your belt. And nobody's ever defended both back and forth, aside from Amanda Nunes. I don't predict that that's going to happen anytime soon. Vastly different parity in the brackets of women's 45 and 35 than men's 85. And what's really been their feature weight class for many years of light heavyweight. In many ways, light heavyweight has been a more featured class even than the heavyweights. If you start to go back to the Frank Shamrock, pass that on to Chuck Liddell, the Tito Ortiz, the Randy Couture, the Quentin Jacksons, all light heavyweights. So somebody's going to get held up. According to Adesanya, that's going to make that decision, at least in large part, influence Dana, who is going to make that decision. He says he wants to go back to 185. To do what? I guess we'll have to hear. But I've never been told, at least not to a point that I'm comfortable and have certainty on it, as to what we're doing at light heavyweight in the first place.